it's kind of like going into your belly button a little too deep, and you're like, oh shit, there's stuff inside that's kind of gutsy and weird in there. Here, I'm gonna have to catch up with you here.
Oh yeah, it's gonna do what it do, baby.
Oh yeah, it's gonna do what it do, all the way to the bank.
Dude, this is really awesome. Thank you for having me.
It's kind of an experiment. I've never done it before, so it's like it's cool. It's like the first one. I've never done anything like it.
How much have you put into this so far?
I've put about 25K into this episode, and we'll see how that turns out. First off, I guess I should introduce myself. My name is Gordo. I am a musician, performer, producer, instructor. I am associated with the rock trio Granny Tweed. I also perform as a solo entity under the name Gordon Leadfoot. I own and I operate a small label called Gordophonic Records. My guest today is a member of that roster, Randall Conrad Olinger. What about you?
And I do like some rock and roll stuff, one-man band style. I'm originally from Denver, Colorado, hail the Mile High City. Currently a resident of Austin, Texas, and I have been doing nothing for like at least the last 15 days. Thanks for having me, dude.
Mi casa es su casa.
Cheers.
Cheers.
From Texas, hey.
Cheers.
Cheers, brother.
Oh, yeah. Burns. First of all, how is this whole weird situation affecting you professionally? I could take a few guesses, but I just want to hear it straight from the horse's mouth.
To be perfectly honest with you, dude, I kind of feel like I had this shit at the tail end of my tour. I was super sick before this thing kind of really broke here.
Really?
Yeah, and you know, I can't verify that by any means, dude, but like all the symptoms and how I felt is very relatable to what I'm seeing now. And so initially, I think it affected that without knowing it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Wow, dude.
Really, really sick the last 2 days of tour, and like came home and was like completely wrecked. And it was unlike anything I'd really ever experienced before, you know what I mean? Which I thought was unique at the time. And after all this stuff had come out, I was like, dang, dude, did I have that, you know?
Shit.
So maybe not, but I feel like in my gut, I started off with this, dude. And other than that, you know, I've had tours canceled. I had a pretty good lineup during South by that didn't happen, which was kind of unfortunate, just like everybody else, obviously. But
yeah,
that's the bad side of it. The good side of it is that I've been able to really focus on 14 new songs that I've been waiting to like dive into, and I'm like balls deep in them right now. You know, it's great.
Right on.
It's unfortunate that we can't leave the house, but it's not like I have a shortage of shit to do. I have a lot of cool stuff cooking, and I'm happy to, I don't know, indulge in it.
So are you writing, or are you just working on stuff that you had previously written and now you're just kind of getting it like pieced together and solidified?
It's all like, I have a weird process, you know. All of the 14 of these songs are all for the most part hashed out, and they're like well sculpted ideas on my phone. And so like now what I'm doing is like fine tuning them and really just, going through them with a, fine-tooth comb, and making sure I can play them live and stuff like that, restructuring them if I need to.
Oh, you're already talking Greek to me. I don't know anything about that process. I just go out there and try and do what I can, and if it doesn't work, then I blame somebody else.
I do that too, even when it's apparently like my fault. Like I'll find someone to blame.
blame your foot. Like, what the fuck you doing?
Yeah.
No, I actually my lack of preparation is one of the things that I've been really considering during this isolation stint. It's like, maybe you should just be a little bit more prepared for certain things, because there's certain things that I do that I'm always prepared for, and then there's other things that I kind of like, just like, oh, I'll just wing it, and that's never really worked out the way I want to from a performance standpoint. So
that's interesting to hear you say, because you come off both as a person and as a musician is very well put together.
I don't know how that happens. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's all smoke and mirrors. So I want to know what other musicians are doing, because I haven't, the best part about this thing for me is that I haven't had to look at a booking email in a long time. And I'm like, it kind of gives me an excuse to not worry about that kind of shit.
Absolutely.
And it's like kind of like a big weight off my shoulders. And, but on the other hand, it's also a really shitty prospect. I don't know what venues are doing. Like, are people like, are you trying to reschedule shows for later in the year, or are you just kind of laying out and saying, nope, I'm not going to do anything for right now. I'm just going to wait until whatever gets determined is going to be determined.
Yeah, I'm not actively trying to book or reschedule anything really. And I think, everybody's situation is different, but for me personally, I don't really have to, like, this whole situation is so weird that I'm just kind of like, I felt like the decision for me would to be, like you said, enjoy a period in your life when you don't have to worry about that shit. Like, booking is stressful. It's always like this, like, pebble in your shoe if you're doing it for yourself, and I just embraced it. Like, okay, can't go on the road, that sucks, but it's kind of nice to, like, not have to worry about it. And, like, can't book shows and shit, that sucks, but it's kind of nice to not worry about that, because ultimately that's not what I want to be doing.
Right.
I want to be playing. So if I can't be booking and doing all that other stuff, then I'm just going to, like, dive headfirst into what I love to do about and being in the music business. And that's just playing music,
Yeah.
So I've really embraced all of the silver lining of all of this shit,
Yeah, for sure, man. Obviously I do a lot of recording and songwriting and stuff like that. I do a lot of that stuff that's already in isolation a lot of the time anyway, so
right.
What's weird is that I don't have those built-in release valves anymore. I can't necessarily go out for a beer like Three Kings or Skylark or wherever, and like, or I can't meet up with my bandmates and play and talk about inane bullshit for a while. I really miss that shit. Like, it's all that social stuff. Like, you kind of take it, I don't know, I kind of take it for granted sometimes. And then when you can't do it, you're just like, fuck, dude.
Yeah. When you don't have the choice, it's like,
yeah,
that's the biggest pisser of it all. Is like, I love staying home and, like, geeking off with my guitar and doing all that kind of stuff, but it's like when someone's like, you can't go down to the bar and, like, unwind for a minute, that's when you really need it.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, like, it's just a weird situation to be like, my wife is working from home, so like I'm actually learning more about what she does just because, like, she's in meetings a lot. She's like she's in meetings with other, like, she's a an education consultant, and she works at a middle school, so she's talking to teachers all day long.
Right.
And to see how they've pulled together, like having virtual school is fucking amazing, dude.
Dude,
like,
yeah.
It's just crazy.
Absolutely, dude. And like from the standpoint of having children, it's crazy to see how quickly they were able to transition from normal school, go to a schoolhouse type deal to boom, here are your assignments, and like they were really quick about how they could utilize technology to homeschool my kids, dude.
Yeah.
It was nuts, man. It was like within a couple days, like boom, here, we're ready to go, which is cool, man. I mean, it's a testament to our education, man. They care,
Absolutely. They're kicking ass right now.
Yeah.
They're one of the many people out there that are kicking ass, while the rest of us are at home.
I think we're all trying to kick ass, man. You know what I mean? I have, at least in my circle of people, I have yet to see any real negativity with any real weight to it. You know what I mean? For the most part, I feel like all my friends who are musicians and small business owners and stuff like that have, at least online, have projected like a really solid character, dude, during such a crazy time.
Yeah, I was just talking to Aaron the other day about this. It seems like there's a newfound kind of civility online. Like when you go online.
Absolutely. That exactly, dude. It's interesting to see that we, for at least one moment in history, have a common enemy, if you will, instead of it being each other and stuff. It was like, as nasty as this whole situation is, like, it is really nice to see us, for the most part, kind of band together,
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah. It's cool, man.
Yeah.
It's cool. So it sounds like your family's adapting pretty good to this whole thing. I noticed Carly's like really just rocking that online presence and like kind of carrying over the health and beauty thing. Like I saw her earlier today, she was doing like a haircut, like an online haircut, like a haircut coaching thing.
Yeah.
I was like, that's fucking cool, man.
That's what I'm talking about, dude. It's like, that's us all working together. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, dude, she can't cut this kid's hair, but these people really like my wife and support her for what she does. So they arranged to, it's like meeting in the middle. Like, hey, my kid needs a haircut. This is who I would normally go to. Let's figure out how to do this. And, it's like, and it's all like the musicians and stuff. Like, let's just play live, dude. Well, we got to keep the fire going. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. And yeah, she's doing that, and you and I are doing that currently by just having these conversations and talking about what we do, man,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's one thing I haven't really embraced yet is the live streaming stuff. What do you think? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I'm not shy about telling anybody that, like, even in a normal show setting, I'm like highly anxious and like get the pre-show like heavies, and so, but that's not a conversation that I think happens a lot between musicians. At least I don't think it is, but it's definitely common with this current situation going on. Like, I've seen so many people like mention how nervous they were about it, so like hearing that makes me feel good about it. Initially, I was just like terrified to do it, but I think it's important to get past that, just as it would be to get past being nervous for a normal show.
Right.
A lot of people that like my music have hit me up like, hey, are you gonna do this? And I think that like
I was gonna ask you about that.
I feel like I kind of, at least at the very like bottom of it, I owe it to those people who care about supporting what I do. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's weird to say or whatnot, but like I have a lot of people that have helped me get to where I'm at, and if they're asking me to play with my phone, why not, man? You know?
Playing with your phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's an inevitability for me for sure. I think for a while I was trying to find what's the angle? What kind of angle can I find that would be different or original? And it's like, yeah, you just have to do it. Basically, you just have to do it. And I've watched, a bunch of people that I know that we know, and they've done a great job with it. They've done a fantastic job with it. And it's like, wow, that kicks ass. I wish I could feel confident doing that, but it's just about getting up and doing it.
Totally, dude. And you know what? I've watched so many too since this thing's all unfolded, and it feels really good, even though you're not there in person or like sitting in the crowd, like cheering and clapping and all of that stuff. It feels really good to have someone's show going on, even if I'm like cooking dinner. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You're still part of that community, supporting your friends and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But to touch on what you were talking about, finding your angle, that's all I've been doing since thinking about what live show I want to do is how I want to do it. Especially with like what I do musically, you know what I mean? Like I want to do my full show. Like I don't want to just like not to take anything away from a guy and a guitar. Like I don't want to do that because I just want to do my full like one-man band rock show. And
so you're not going to alter your set, like play a bunch of Backstreet Boys songs or something?
Dude, I wasn't going to go with the Backstreet Boys, but like maybe some Belle Biv DeVoe, like I kind of like a little old school.
BBD.
But yeah, it's going to be scary, but we're going to do it.
Oh yeah. I'm looking forward to putting it together because I've been holed up here working on stuff just kind of behind the scenes, as it were, like just working on the next album and trying to get things squared away. Speaking of which, I have to bring up, you and I have been working on a project kind of stealthily under the radar.
Yes.
And I'm really excited about. I don't want to say too much about that actually. I want to keep part of that under the covers, but I'm excited about that. It's been simmering for a long time, and
I know we got to wrap that up, dude.
Yeah. We'll have a chance to do that sometime. Obviously, this whole thing creates serious fucking issues, but we'll figure it out. We might just have to pull a bald seagull and just do everything remotely.
I would really like to get that band off the ground.
Oh, it'd be amazing if it actually was able to come to fruition. That would be amazing.
I'm a fan.
I'm a big fan. I am a big fan of Bald Seagull. So I guess, I don't know. So I guess that brings us to the main focus of our conversation today. The original idea of us getting together and talking like this was just to talk about some records that we love. So you just go straight into it? So we launch into it?
Dude.
I'm going to take another drink here. Let's get into this.
I have beer and wine. I'm so confused.
You're so set up.
Quarantine like a pro, dude.
What does my shot glass say? It says O'Connor and Goldberg's Package Store. Look at this dude.
Anything that says package store on it is probably vintage.
What you got for me, buddy? What you got?
Real quick, my idea for my picks, wasn't going to be like, these are my top 5 albums.
No, you can't do that.
Yeah, okay, cool. They were well thought out. There's a bit of a method between picking them. And part of that method was something that was recommended to me recently. So my first pick is a band called Sleeping Pandora, and the album is called Quiet Pass. was on my last tour. I was in Kansas City. I was hanging out with Matt, my buddy Matt Young, who records a bunch of my music, and played bands with him and whatnot.
Excellent individual.
Yeah. We were just kind of kicking it, dude. We had just wrapped up recording. There's like a night off during tour. We were recording some songs and stuff, and we were just like hanging out, drinking a little bit, and he put on this band, and I was like, whoa, dude, what is this? And it was Sleeping Pandora. It's like this kind of this proggy, instrumental, kind of heavy, like atmospheric thing going on. Immediately I was drawn to it. Super hooky, kind of, they kind of use like this synthesizer thing going on, but it's almost like a heavy rock approach. Yeah,
right on.
Definitely check out Quiet Pass, man.
So
There's
what
a song on there called Spherica, I think is how you say it, that just like, dude, I put that song on repeat and like put it on my headphones. I think it's like a 10-minute song, dude. It's super long. There's some like synth stuff going on in that song, dude, that like melted parts of my brain. And it's like, you know, it's kind of like got a repetitive thing going on, but like I put it on my headphones and just like listen to it for like 40 minutes straight, because it's just so cool, man. But apparently they came out with a new album like maybe a couple weeks ago or something. Their genre apparently is psychedelic rock.
Psych rock, dude.
Yeah. I'm not sure where they're from though, dude. Yeah, I just haven't really gotten that far with the band, but the album is fantastic, dude.
And that's Sleeping Panda.
Sleeping Pandora.
This is going great so far.
Yeah.
And the album is called
Quiet Pass.
Quiet Pass.
It hit me, dude. I liked it. I really liked what they were doing, dude. I'll just like beat an album down until I'm ready to move on to the next one of that band specifically, you know, and then I'll start to check out what they do, I don't know, sonically or whatever, with like instrumentation they use and stuff like that and where they're from. But like right now I'm just enjoying the album.
Yeah. Well, that was a good pick, because that actually is a really good segue into my first pick. It's a band called Expo 70. And this album, called Virtually from the Unknown, that was recorded live in 2012. This guy right here, this Justin Wright, okay? This is the guy who does all this stuff. Atmospheric, ambient, noise.
What's the group called?
Expo 70.
Expo 70, okay.
And this guy, I'm not sure if he's originally from LA or what, but he lives in Kansas City. Kelly at Love Garden in Lawrence, Kansas, shout out to the greatest record store in the continental United States. He turned me on to this. Like I was in there frequently. I'm a record fucking junkie, so like I would be in there frequently, and this fucking thing, like it slammed me into the ground face first. It gave me a bloody forehead. I was like, what? Closet Full of Candles. That's the jam you want. This is like seriously some heavy shit, and then it goes into some like droney, crazy ambient shit. Right, you know? Yeah. But this is like totally up that same alley of like psych rock and then like synths and stuff like that. It's like, it's in that vein, but it's like it's apparently from another planet. It literally only does one fucking thing, and I have a thing for that kind of thing. I don't know why. I have this thing for repetition.
I have a thing for that kind of thing.
I do. I just like, I love repetition, and it just keeps hitting you in the face repeatedly. And it's just a joy. It's a joy to be hit in the face.
Oh, yes, dude. I have to check it out, dude. I am totally intrigued now, dude.
If you don't, even if you don't dig like any of the other stuff, that one song is just fucking incredible. And I couldn't believe this dude just like lived up the road. Then he had an accident with a saw machine and sawed off part of his hand.
What?
Yeah, he's a really good guitar player. That happened like maybe a couple of years ago. And yeah, I don't know what's going. He's still putting out records. It's mostly the ambient stuff, you know. I mean, it's just criminal for any guitar player to lose any kind of ability like that, you know. Like,
especially if you're like, yeah, dude. I mean, especially when you're like making and writing music, you obviously like that's like something you care about, you know. Dang, dude. Oof.
yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah.
Hell of a recommendation. Expo 70.
Expo 70.
What a cool name too, dude. You know, I'll back up to my pick real quick. That was the least favorite thing about the band Sleeping Pandora. I wasn't into the name, you know. And no disrespect to those dudes. If like they're gonna tune in, you know, hey.
Tune in, guys. Tune in. It's a very 90s name. There's a certain kind of, it's like, you know, okay, we have the action verb and then we have the noun. It's like, finding daylight, or, you know, crushing steel, or whatever, you know. There was so many bands that were named like that, you know, especially in the 90s. What the fuck do I know?
I wish I would have had like a little more time to like dive into them as a band and have some knowledge about them, but
well, obviously you should spend the next 6 months just, you know, taking a deep dive.
I'm gonna write them letters. Hey, we drinking, okay?
There's nothing in here.
Okay.
Let me fix that.
It's really weird, dude. You know, I hardly ever drink, especially at home.
Likewise.
I'm sure a lot of musicians can relate to that, especially ones that go on the road and stuff. But I tell you what, dude, this quarantine got me feeling like I want to drink a little bit.
Quarantine gives you a thirst.
Yes, very well put, dude. That's a great commercial, dude. Like if quarantine, you know, hey, quarantine gives you a thirst. I'm super proud of this pick, dude. But there comes a little bit of like insecurity with this for whatever reason. I'll probably get into it later.
I'm intrigued.
I hope you are, dude. Like I put a lot of thought into these, dude. Okay.
As did I.
All right. I know you did. But this one is not it's not as obscure, dude. Okay. My next pick is Dr. Dre, The Chronic. No one, I'll make some cool off like the I fucking love that album, dude. I listen to it routinely. It is like a constant, like, coming up. I'll be fucking driving down the road, jamming that shit loud as fuck, dude. Like, I love, like, that was, I think is probably ultimately my favorite rap recording.
It's got everything, honestly. My favorite thing about that album is the production. It's just fucking solid front to back. Exactly.
And to me, I feel like when that came, I was 14 when I heard that for the first time. And I had heard like rap and hip hop before, but when I heard that album specifically, it felt as if I was hearing something completely and totally like foreign. You know what I mean? There was like gangster rap before that, but the way, like you said, the production, the way that was arranged with all the like, it has a very soulful, like,
oh yeah, dude.
Example, like I'm kind of ignorant to like how it was all like put together specifically, but it's got like this kind of soul sample thing going on that just like really connected with me because I liked all that kind of music before I discovered that album, you know?
Right.
And when I heard that, dude, I was like, fuck, dude. It hit me the same way. It was the only hip hop album that hit me the same way a rock or metal album hit me.
Yeah.
You know, that's the best way that I can explain how that album affected me. it gave me the same like physical, like, whoa, this is amazing, that like, and Justice for All did when I discovered that, which is not my pick. I snuck one in there on accident for example purposes.
How dare you reference Hetfield Inc. That's fucking awesome, man. Yeah, that album is fucking, that's a classic. It's a classic front to back. And they sold not only a lot of that album, they sold a lot of Funkadelic albums as well. I mean, that was everybody's introduction basically into to Snoop Doggy Dogg. You know, like they had done, I think, one song, it was on a movie soundtrack before that.
Oh, off that album?
Yeah, I want to say it was like Deep Cover or something like that. There was a maybe a Larry Fishburne movie, I don't know. And that was the first instance, I think, of that collaboration. And you know, which I had not heard that until I heard The Chronic, you know, and kind of went backwards and said, what else have these guys done, you know?
Right.
Because I knew about NWA, like, you know, especially Ice Cube, man. Ice Cube's my fucking favorite. I gotta say, like that guy, he put out some fucking amazing albums.
I don't get to talk about hip hop a lot or rap with people, you know what I mean? And so like, I'm not confident like how the rest of the world views that. For me personally, dude, it's like gold.
Judging by the numbers, the rest of the world is solidly in your corner.
You never know what like music snob is lurking around the corner waiting to sneeze on like some album you want to talk about, you know?
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
And dude, you know, like the history of that whole thing, dude, with them not being accepted by like East Coast rap and whatnot, dude, like you just know there's a handful of like people who are just like, no, man, that ain't cool. I don't like that album. You know, like that's not real hip hop or whatever. Like it just, every genre has its snob and stuff. So I'm just not too familiar with how that album is really like felt in the hip hop community. You know what I mean?
A lot of the music back then was being attacked for, you know, having explicit lyrics or for talking about certain subjects. And it really did just make people flock to it.
Totally. So much of what they wrote about was how they lived their lives. And
absolutely.
Like, as a whole, sonically, I appreciated it. You know what I mean? I thought it was like put together well. It hit all the right spots with my feels and whatnot, you know? So like the whole PC aspect, I understand why somebody would say that, but I don't give a fuck.
Right.
You know, like I love it. It's a great album to me, dude, you know?
Yeah. You know what? We are in sync. We are in complete, we have a flow going on as usual, honestly, because this is how things usually go with us anyway. But this leads me perfectly into DJ Shadow's Introducing.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, break down, baby.
It's a hip hop classic. I also love it because it has records and cats. You cannot fucking beat it with a fucking stick. You just can't. People digging for records and cats. I mean, that's my culture. That's where I came from.
I know.
So,
dude.
Speaking of Metallica, the first song I heard off of this album was a tune that he sampled Orion. Okay, like Cliff Burton's bass riff. It's one of the best songs in the universe, the number song off of this album. It's amazing, and he samples Metallica on it, and it's fucking crushing. The sampling technology at that time was kind of rudimentary. I had sampling stuff. I was making beats in my studio in the 90s and working with local MCs and stuff in Lawrence, Kansas, and this just schooled me. I was just like, okay, I quit. I mean, who's gonna keep up with this shit? I have no idea. but what DJs were doing at that time, which there was a big DJ culture, like huge DJ culture at that time, and like DJs they had a really good run there in the 90s. And they were doing shows like they were selling out clubs. I would go and see a DJ play in Lawrence, and they would fill like a small theater, like, you know, and it was amazing time, because I enjoyed the technicality of scratching so much, and of DJing and collecting records and all this stuff. This whole culture is like, it really spoke to me. And this guy, the way he puts stuff together is just incredible. And it's dude.
It's as artistic as any other instrument you can learn to play, dude. And like, I didn't come to that realization until very late in my life. Even though I related and like felt how awesome some of the hip hop and rap was that like I liked, you know, like even though it like affected me, I didn't come to the realization or the appreciation for it until very late. I kind of took it for granted, like the process of like how to make a good hip hop record or whatever, you know. I was so inclined to think about like rock music and like how that comes to fruition or whatever.
You know, everybody talks about life-changing albums, like, oh, this guy's musical change live, you know, like, well, okay, you know, like that, you hear that a lot, and you know, punk rock saved my life, hip hop saved my life, you know, Mozart saved my life. You know, it's like, sure, I can totally relate to that, but it's just kind of a cliche. But that being said, this album changed my life. That's my 2 cents on that.
Nice, dude.
And on your point though, of like I knew a lot of people, especially like coming up and trying to get into bands, like when I was younger, and like trying to get I was the guy that was placing personal ads in like the weekly to try and find people to jam with in my town and stuff. And like I got together with lots of different people, and I met a lot of people during that time who were just really down on hip hop and on I don't know, like hip hop culture in general, because it wasn't original. You know, it's like, you know, they're stealing, but it's not that fucking easy. It's not like you just spin a fucking record and that's all you do. There's a lot of thought, there's a lot of creative impulses that go into each of those selections, and all the beat making and all of the scratches,
the orchestration of it, dude.
Yeah, it's like, it's a whole culture.
What better honor, dude, to like have like some DJ or like hip hop artist be like, I'm gonna sample your shit, dude. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I can't think of anything that would make me happier than someone to say like,
right? You know,
hey, can we sample your shit?
Yeah. Can I get a little sample? Just a little bit of your
small sample. Fuck.
Good pick, man.
Oh, well, you know, I do what I can. I don't know.
I do like how we're going back and forth. I wonder if it's going to continue.
I know. I'm captivated now. I want to see how long we can keep this streak up now. Because now, of course, you have to switch gears again, right?
All right. So my next pick, I'm going to preface this with this band who I've seen live a handful of times and have had the honor of opening for them a couple of times. They are, in my opinion, one of the most radical rock and roll bands I've ever seen, and that band is the Giraffes. And the album is Prime Motivator. And I'm only picking that album because that's where I started with them. They've been around for a long time. They have like a pretty large catalog. I'm a fan of all the stuff that they've done, but like that's where I caught them initially. And that album definitely kicked some serious fucking ass.
I have missed my opportunity to see this band like at least 3 times, like for various reasons. Either I had shows or something else was going on. But they've played here in Denver quite a bit, and for some reason, for whatever reason, I just haven't been able to see. So describe their live show
Well, the first time that I saw the Giraffes was when my band Workhorse got to open up for them. I really didn't know too much about them. The Larimer Lounge, the people who were booking for them, they were like, "We got to get you on this show with this band called the Giraffes." And it was right when we were starting out. They were like one of the first touring bands that we got to open up for. You know, we played with them, and after we opened up, and their show, like, aside from like how amazingly like brutal it was as far as like rock and roll is concerned, every member of the crowd that was there to see the Giraffes was like throwing beer cans, like drinks were just getting whipped left. You know what I mean? It was completely and totally unlike anything that I had ever seen, you know, in my experience with live music ever. It was like, I had no idea that that was part of their show. You know what I mean? At least it was like every time that I'd seen them play, it was just like,
wow.
and it was like, you know, like that's a very like kind of crude element to a live show, right? But their like technicality and execution of what they were doing was fucking mind-blowing to me. I mean, like, their guitar player who's left-handed, who plays a right-handed guitar just upside down, like that's how he plays guitar, is fucking shredding, you know. And their singer has like the like absolute most swagger I've ever seen, and he's just like dapper looking dude. Like, they had it all, dude, or they have it all, you know. I was like completely blown away. And like that same element of their live show translates onto their records, at least in my opinion, you know?
Yeah.
They're fantastic, dude. Like, their songs they have like just the right amount of technicality. They have this like kind of boogie element to them, you know? This sort of like riff thing happening. And the lyrics are like, you know, intelligent, thought out, they're fun. And dude, in my opinion, like on my dying day, I would tell somebody that the Giraffes, dude, are one of the greatest rock and roll bands to ever exist. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I feel about that band. They're fantastic, man. If I could be in love with a rock band or a relationship, you know what I mean? If like a rock band could be like your dream girl or whatever, or like, oh, dude, one day I'm gonna ask the Giraffes out on a date. One day. That's them, dude.
That's perfect.
Yeah, and you know, and like I'm so like I tell so many people, I'm like, dude, that's one of the most like proud moments in my career as a musician, was being able to share the stage with them, you know, and just being on the same bill with them, dude, just like makes me smile, you know, because I fucking love that band, dude, and like to be able to work with them was great, and to get to hang out with them, and they're fantastic, dude. They like epitomize rock and roll to me. Their lead singer, Aaron, you know, gave me their CD personally the night that we opened up for him. It's a rad piece of like rock music, man.
I'll drink to that.
Yeah, dude, I'm out of drinks, dude. Can I go get a beer?
You should go get a beer, absolutely.
I'm gonna go get a beer.
Just tripped over my own shit.
You took a shit and tripped on it?
Fan-fucking-tastic. Is that a blues slide, bottleneck slides, blues slide? Look at mine. I've been using, this is part of the reason I play slide so shitty, is because I have this slide that doesn't even fucking fit my finger. It's just like...
Glass sucks, dude. You gotta ditch the glass. Glass didn't have any beef behind it, you know? Yeah, I don't like glass, dude.
Glass can fuck a goat.
Eat a dick, glass.
Okay, so, wow. All right, so based on talking about bands that you've opened up for, that you highly respect and you love, as if they were your own kin. I have to say, this band right here,
Oh yeah, dude.
Split Lip Rayfield.
Well, there ain't no use for me to work so hard this morning. This morning, no, there ain't no use for me to work so hard this morning. This morning, there ain't no use for me to work so hard when I got a woman in the up for the show this morning for breakfast.
We're still on doing this thing, dude.
We are.
This is great.
We are, because this band, I feel exactly how you expressed your love of the Giraffes. That's how I feel about this band. This band, there's no way for me to adequately describe my feelings for this band. They talk about a life-changing band. I mean, I'm all in on the cliche with these guys, because these guys were local to me in Wichita, Kansas when I was coming up, and they had a band called Scroat Belly, and I was like, holy fuck, this is fucking amazing. And then they broke up. And I was like, well, great. You know, I finally come around to liking these guys, and now I love them with a passion, and now they're no longer a thing. And I moved to Lawrence, Kansas, and then I saw this band playing acoustic punk rock, basically, you know, or whatever you want to call it, like aggro acoustic, anti-folk. I don't know what you want to call it. There's a bluegrass flavor to it for sure. There is punk rock and metal energy to it. There's shredding of a high degree going on in some of this stuff, and the songwriting is just second to none. This particular single, these two songs.
What songs are on there?
They're two of my favorite songs. It's Old Number 6, which is a song that Wayne wrote, Wayne Gottstein. And the other one is How Many Biscuits Can You Eat? But
Okay.
Jeff, anytime Jeff sings a song, it's usually like there's an old-timey jam going on there, or some variation on that, and he plays the gas tank bass, and he plays the kazoo, and occasionally he sings a song on his own, and this is the one that he sings, and it's one of the best songs they do. How Many Biscuits Can You Eat? It's amazing.
Let me ask you something, dude, because
Yeah.
I'm familiar with Split Lip. So, is this pick of yours based off like those two songs? Like you are using this pick because you like those songs, like those are good, like those are some of your favorite Split Lip songs?
Yeah, the main reason is that like I said, it's really hard to pick a favorite song or a favorite album or whatever from them, but those two songs being on that single was like, it was amazing, because like for me and you know a few other people I know, that like those were our favorite songs. Like the whole band has great songwriters. Like Kirk Rundstrom, one of the original members, who's, you know, sadly passed away several years ago from cancer. He was my favorite songwriter, probably from when I, you know, first heard that Scroat Belly show. When I first saw them, like I was like, wow, this is so cool, you know.
Yeah.
And he writes amazing songs, but so do the other dudes in the band. It's like, it was just phenomenal for me to learn, like, okay, so this guy wrote that one, this guy wrote that one, this guy wrote like the bench is so deep with these fuckers, like, yeah. And they're all good. They're all just shredders as well.
I love that band, dude. I don't know them as much as you do, you know, like I was kind of late to the game discovering who they were and whatnot, but like everything that I've heard from them is just like top notch, man. And lots of respect to that band, dude. You know?
They're very
yeah, they're like an underground gem. Like, is that okay to say? You know, like,
absolutely.
Like I feel like Split Lip is one of those bands that, like, it's like morphine, you know, like if you know who they are and you like them, like you instantly have my attention, if not my respect.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Like I really like that band. I don't know them as much as you do, you know, but they're rad, dude. They're super great, man.
To this day, they're the band I have seen most in my life.
Really?
I have seen them a million times, and I am shocked at myself because, you know, you kind of you go through life and you have favorite bands, and then they kind of maybe like fall to the side, or maybe they're not your favorite anymore. I've never been to a disappointing Split Lip Rayfield show in my entire life, and I've been to a lot of them.
Yeah.
Just simply, and that goes for also their side projects that they did. Like I saw all that stuff whenever I could, you know.
Let me ask you, dude. What is the Bang My Fist Against the Wall song? What's the name of that song?
The nighttime drives me crazy. I bang my fist on the wall.
Yeah.
Used to call me baby, now she don't call at all.
Dude, that song, dude, was like, that was the one. I don't know, like how that's like how people like that, and like, you know, like you grew up with those guys, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how popular of a song that was for them, but when I heard that song, I was like, this song is the perfect song, dude. You know what I mean? It like grabbed me in all the right ways, had like some really cool, intriguing lyrics that like really made me like picture what was going on within the context of the song, and it made me fall in love with the band, you know, like at the time.
Yeah.
What do you know anything about that song, dude? Do you have any like?
I have, you know, honestly, the only time I ever had an opportunity to really talk to anybody in the band about their songs was I talked to Kirk one time. He was staying at a friend of mine place, and like, oh yeah, man, it was mortifying. I had a bluegrass band. We were playing in their living room, and Kirk Runstrom walked in, and I wanted to fucking just kill myself, right? I was like, where's the door? Like, I was like, can I get the fuck out of here now? Like, it was, yeah, it was nerve wracking to be playing our songs in front of someone that I respected so much, you know?
Sure.
It just, you know, and so, yeah, that was the only time I ever got to, you know, talk to, and that, you know, and I think that's a Wayne song. But it's one of my favorite jams. It's perfect.
You know, it really is, dude. Like I genuinely, I would argue that with anybody, like any like music snob. I'd be like, this is the perfect song, dude. I would take that to my grave for sure. The interesting thing about that song, dude, to me is when I discovered it and I heard it, it had this like vibe or this feeling that was like familiar to me that I couldn't pin at the moment, you know, but like after rubbing elbows with so many Kansas musicians after a while, I'm like, dude, that's a Kansas sound.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I really felt it wasn't like most alt country or whatever that like I had heard or whatever. Like, it was like something that like I could really feel was like unique to where it came from, but I didn't know it until I started like meeting so many Kansas musicians, dude, like the Calamity Cubes and you guys and stuff, you know? I was like, oh, dude, this is like a product of its scene. You know what I'm saying, dude? Like, and that's how that's what I loved about Split Lip is it was like, just as you would talk about like East Coast hip hop and all that kind of shit, like Split Lip was like fucking Kansas, dude, you know?
Oh yeah, they were 110% like just like over the top about Kansas. Like probably almost every show that I saw them, Kirk would get up there and say like, let's hear it for the beautiful state of Kansas. Like, yeah, you know, and like there's a lot of pride, and there was a lot of like, you know, because even people in Kansas shit on Kansas, you know, it's like it's like there's this kind of attitude that's prevailing. I don't know. You know what I mean? It probably goes for
what you're saying, dude.
It goes for a lot of hometowns or a lot of I don't know. It's just
it's very specific to Kansas, though, dude. I mean, I grew up in Colorado, and I am friends with many people from Kansas, and it is a thing for sure.
It's just there's an attitude there that's just like, yeah, I know we're a fucking flyover state, you know, where I know we're, you know, like, oh, I think I drove through Kansas once. You know, like like everybody's heard that shit, whatever. But I'll tell you something. I've seen some of the most amazing musicians and artists in my life come out of Kansas.
I agree.
And it just blows my mind. And I can personally attest to the level of boredom that helps you achieve the creativity that you want to find in yourself.
I've been, for one way or another, like plugged into the Kansas music scene, at first being a metal musician and then being a roots guy, you know, like it's been awesome to just to be a part of it. You know what I mean? Like, I really feel like I've been connected to that scene just as much as where I started, because it's always been so close. It's like my neighbor, you know?
Yeah. And the honestly,
it's so much good music, dude. So much. Like, it's just, it blows me away how, like, I hate to say underrated or like looked over it is, but it's rich with talented fucking people, man. You know?
It's a flyover scene, man.
It is a thing, dude. How like people from Kansas will fucking say the nastiest things about it, but love it so much, you know. That's always been great to me. I mean, one of my like best friends I was in the Navy with was from Wichita, you know, and
yeah,
the shit that he would say about it when we were in, it blew me away that like he went back to it, you know what I mean? Because he loved it, dude. Like, he could have went anywhere after the Navy, dude, but he went back to Kansas, you know. It's like,
you know, it has a vortex like anywhere else, man. You know, yeah. Home is kind of a vortex of its own, you know, and at a certain point you just got to embrace it. You know, right. you got to be like, yeah, this is what we are, you know, like, you know, oh yeah, cow shit and wheat and corn, you know, like whatever. You know that it's more than that. We know that it's more than that. Like, you right. know, Split Lip Rayfield to me is the perfect export from Kansas that you could possibly have, because it's just a solid. It's like it's the ugliness and the beauty of that fucking awesome flat expanse, you know. It's the sound of the American prairie.
I'll tell you, dude. Just while we're on the topic of Kansas, dude, listen to this thing that I have to say real quick.
Do it. I'm not scared.
Shortly after I got out of the Navy, I was driving to Kansas to meet my buddy Mike, who was in the Navy. And I was driving at night, and dude, the moon that I was driving into was unlike anything that I could ever explain. And if I was able to explain it properly, you wouldn't fucking believe me, dude. It like was this thing that encompassed the entire horizon, and I was just like driving into it, and it was fucking spiritual, dude. Like, I don't know what compelled me to tell you that story, but like, go Kansas, man. Like, that happened in Kansas. It was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen, you know, for people who like think that there isn't anything cool about Kansas. They don't know shit.
There's still nothing like a Kansas sunset, man. It is just a thing to behold.
For sure,
you know. And thunderstorms. I really miss thunderstorms too.
Come down to Texas, dude. We got them every
Well, shit. What's next on your radar there?
All right, next pick, dude.
Yeah. This has been going great so far. This is amazing.
Absolutely, dude. I love it, man. Okay, my next pick, dude. Dax Riggs, Say Goodnight to the World.
All these stars you've been reaching after.
take the trip, dude. Okay. So do you know who Dax Riggs is?
We were on tour and you played a whole album of his for me.
Oh,
and it
well,
was
probably, yeah.
And it was really fucking good.
Yeah, Acid Bath is like a stoner, like heavy stoner band from the fucking swamps of Louisiana, and like that's how I discovered Dax. Like, I'm a big Acid Bath fan. Well, they broke up or whatever, and he started doing like all different kinds of things, dude, but kind of leaning more towards like rock and roll. Eventually he just started doing like solo stuff, dude, and his solo shit is, it to me, dude, is what I feel like modern blues music is. You could throw that CD or any of his solo stuff to a blues musician, they'd listen to it and they would fucking say I was crazy, right? But if you listen to it, it's blues music that's not ripping the blues off. You know what I mean? It's dark. It's got this soulful vibe to it. It's, you know, it's kind of southern because he's from like Louisiana, you know, or whatever. It's got like very spooky, bluesy rock thing going on that like is completely up my fucking alley, dude. You know what I mean? Like, that is like when I discovered his, like, I always loved Acid Bath, but when I discovered what Dax Riggs was doing on like on a solo like deal, I felt like this was the kind of rock music that I've always wanted to hear. You know, it was the perfect rock music, man. You know, it was artistic, it was different, it was dark, and it fucking kicked ass, man. You know,
have you an opportunity to see Acid Bath or Dax live?
I've seen Dax play, but I haven't seen Acid Bath. They were like at their pinnacle when I was in high school, you know.
Gotcha.
So there wouldn't have been like much opportunity or at all for me to see them really being, you know, in Denver or whatever. One of the things about Acid Bath that I really fucking loved were their lyrics. They're fucking so dark and twisted that like I always tell people that like Acid Bath is like a really good serial killer movie. Like it's good enough because it has all the right realistic fucking creepy elements to it to make you fucking itch. You know what I mean? Like, makes you feel kind of sick inside. Like, that was Acid Bath for me. And when Dax Riggs started his solo thing, like, he took a little bit of that creepiness to his lyrics, but he added this like poetic element to it, and he put it over music that was still dark and heavy, but not nearly as brutal as like a metal band would, you know. And Say Goodnight to the World, my pick, was like my first introduction to Dax Riggs' solo career, you know.
Right on.
Which is bitchin', dude. That fucking album from start to finish is a masterpiece in my mind, you know.
Super cool, man.
Yeah. I'm stoked about my picks, dude.
You have great picks, man. You're great.
Likewise, man.
I think we're doing it, man. I think we're doing it. You gotta watch this mezcal; it'll sneak up on you. Oh Jesus. Okay. So now we're getting into the interesting portion, because this one does kind of relate to the last one that you had. Your last pick.
Again.
Unbelievably, okay. And so what's really interesting is like there were only two to choose from, right? So like like what's got more in common with the one that you picked, and it was a no-brainer. It was a no-brainer. So, okay, so Acid Bath, and Dax Riggs.
Yep.
And what's the name of the album?
Say Goodnight to the World.
Say Goodnight to the World. Okay. So even though I remember listening to that album and really digging it, and knowing that there was an inherent kind of darkness to it that I really dug, that really segues perfectly yet again into my next pick, which is this record right here. It's the Geraldine Fibbers, Lost Somewhere Between the Earth and My Home.
You smile so sweetly
this record, I'm literally getting goosebumps right now, just looking at this album cover, because this came at a time in my life when it's kind of hard to describe. It was not a good part of my life. It was a dark part of my life. Basically, what these guys did is they got lumped in with that whole movement, like Wilco, Golden Smog, that first wave of kind of that whole no depression thing, that whole alt country thing that I don't know that anybody really likes that term, because it sucks, you know. It's like it's not a good representation, you know. But these guys, first of all, their singer, Carla Bozelic, okay? This woman has such a crazy range. She has a very deep voice. And I instantly fell in love with her voice. Like, I'm a big fucking fan of female vocalists in general. But I heard her voice and I was just like, what is going on here? This person sounds like no other person on the fucking planet I have ever heard. It's like they took like Little House on the Prairie and Friday the 13th and I mean, it's just like, there's so much cacophony going on here. There's so much dissonance going on. It's like art rock combined with country music, and it's simply astounding. And I would challenge anyone, and these guys are completely, the reason why I chose this is these guys are like Acid Bath or like Dax. These guys are kind of like, they're kind of ignored. They're on the fringes. Nobody knows who they are. Nobody gives a shit. You know, I apparently one of the few, but like I challenge anyone to listen to the first track off this album. It's called Lily Bell. Listen to the first track off of this album, and if it doesn't inspire some kind of response from you, from your heart or your gut, like you're not fucking alive, man. Like it's like I'm so fascinated and obsessed with this band that it carried over into almost everything that I have done. And I preach the gospel of this fucking band.
No shit.
To people that just don't care. But you know what? I need to be the one to bring this information to them, because who else is going to do it? There's literally no one else that's going to do it.
Yeah.
I was a member of the fan club. I got their newsletter. They sent me exclusive CDs. They sent me fan club merch, and I only saw them play 3 times, but I have to tell this story. It happened at the Hurricane in Kansas City. It's now the Riot Room. You're familiar with this place. We played on the same rainy day there several years ago. Westport Roots. Shout out to Travis. But I saw this band, so we went to see this band play. We showed up super early because like we were geeks like that. It was me and a couple of friends. It was like my ex-girlfriend and her best friend. We showed up for this show is really early. Like we got there like at 5 or something. It was like we did not manage our time correctly, and we were completely stoned. So it just like we didn't know what we were doing. And I think at that time we weren't really familiar with Kansas City in general. So we just kind of like, we're like, well, let's just go to the club and we'll have some beers, you know. We're literally the only 3 people in the place. And we're sitting there talking by the window, and there's some kind of, I can't remember what the venue was that was up the street, but there was some show going on, and there were all these metal chicks. It was like, they just had like crazy hairspray. And like they all had like Kentucky waterfalls or whatever you call it, with like the crazy, just like the spillover shit. I don't know. It was like, and they were just all decked out in their like, you know, mini dresses and heels and boas and shit. And I was just like, wow, that's crazy, you know. And Carla Bozelic walks out from, you know, the green room and just comes down and sits right next to me. She just sits down next to me at this table that we're sitting at. And she starts commenting on these chicks, and she's just like, she's kind of hot. And I was just like, what? Like, I was amazed. I'd never had like an interaction quite like this, you know, and I was kind of befuddled. I was trying to play it cool or whatever, like, yeah, she's hot. Yeah, that's cool, you know. I said a lot of dumb stuff. The bottom line is, it was one of the most, like, she was one of the coolest people that like I had ever met in that situation where she just came out and like kind of said, "Hey, what are you guys doing here?" You know, like, yeah, like we're here to see you, and like, well, you know, thank you, we really appreciate that, and like, and it was super cool, and we just talked about a lot of other stuff, you know, that didn't have anything to do with, you know, rock and roll or whatever. But it was one of those moments that will go down in my personal history as one of the most amazing moments where it's like, oh wow, this is a real person, and
Right.
and like and she's super cool, and like we had an actual substantive conversation, and like and that just does not happen most of the time. It just doesn't happen. I also obviously I kind of had a thing for her at the time. I was very very into her, and so my ex-girlfriend and her friend were just like, you know, the whole time, you know.
Yeah.
But it was pretty magical. It was pretty amazing. But I don't know. That's all I have to say about that.
The band's name again?
The Geraldine Fibbers.
Geraldine Fibbers. Okay. That's
Yeah.
an interesting name.
Yeah. I'm not sure where it comes from. I have no idea. I don't know.
What was that about, dude? What does that mean? I need to know.
There's a lot of, like, if you read through those lyrics, there's a lot going on in there that's hard to pick apart. It's hard to decipher. It's like, you know, Carla's definitely a poet, and there's things going on. She definitely had a rough life. Like you can glean that from, you know, from most of those lyrics. There's just a lot going on in there. I don't know, but the songs are amazing. The songs are incredible. They're like, you know, Bobby Gentry and Iggy Pop got together, they might create something like that. You know, like it's crazy.
Nice. Okay.
You know, but that's.
Can you find them on, like, you know, online platforms and stuff?
You absolutely can.
Very cool.
Absolutely can, and I would highly encourage anyone to do that. Look them up.
Dude, I'm gonna check out all these things, dude.
Yeah,
You too, man.
I'm gonna do it. I'm building a playlist in my mind.
Maybe we should have like a part 2 where we listen to this shit and we come back and be like, dude, that shit sucked, man. What?
Cheers, man. Those high lifes are looking real good, I gotta say.
They go down real good. My wife just popped in.
Hey, what's happening?
We're talking about rock and roll, babe.
I don't know anything about that. I gotta go.
What do we know about partying or anything else?
Don't tell them about my musical choices.
I want to hear about whatever she just told you not to talk about.
She didn't want me to talk about her musical choices.
I hear you knocking, but you can't come in. What do you have coming up next?
Well, I saved my last one for kind of a local, you know, Denver, I guess, musician, and that is The Limbs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he has an album called Boo the Villain. And The Limbs is a one-man band, which is, you know, I've always, like, not really been into the thing one-man band. I don't like that. There are so many one-man bands, but, like, if you watch The Limbs, like, that is the one-man band god, in my opinion. His music's not, like, it's kind of hard to find. He's got that album, Boo the Villain, is on Spotify.
Okay.
You can't find it on iTunes. But it is absolutely fucking mind-blowing. And, like, as a one-man band myself, dude, I get a lot of, like, when people hear me or whatever, like, I'll get a lot of people that come up to me and be like, oh man, I was outside and, like, I felt like I was hearing a full band, blah blah blah, you know, like, which is awesome to hear. But the Limbs is that without question. His music also kind of goes against like what a traditional one-man band would be, which I feel is like more blues and roots based, you know? But he does like some just off-kilter kind of rock and roll, and he's one of the most talented motherfuckers I have ever met in my entire life. And when it comes to like talking one-man band and stuff like that, like he's the bar, in my opinion. And like, I'll fight you if you want to. You know? Like,
Let's go to fisticuffs.
I don't care who you know, who your uncle is, or like what like you've seen on TV, like
Who your uncle is.
yeah. People who know the Limbs know what I'm talking about, you know?
Yeah. This
And,
is true. It's almost like a cult.
He's like my biggest influence when it comes to like one man band shit, you know, like he is like above everything else.
There's
Like,
there's essentially nothing is taken off the table. Like everything's on the table with that dude. Like he can do it all.
Yeah. I kind of wanted to end my picks with him because it ties into what I do or whatever. And like, I've always wanted to, in any situation that I can, like give him the respect that is due, because when I saw him for the first time, I was thinking about what I wanted to do 15 fucking years from what I was doing. You know what I'm saying? He was doing everything that I wanted to do right in front of me. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't nearly like ready or talented enough to even like touch on what he was doing. And to watch that happen and unfold, you know what I mean, was like special to me. I was like, holy shit, this guy's doing what I want to do. And he's doing it so much better than anything else I'd ever seen, you know? Like, I don't know. I stand by that.
Deliver the word. Come down from the mountain and deliver it.
But, you know, I got off on that for a minute, dude. But like his album, Boo the Villain, is fantastic. It's got all this like kind of weird vibes going on, you know what I mean? It's got this kind of off-kilter rock and roll thing that's happening, and it's fun. It's got a little darkness to it, a little humor. It's got just unbelievable amounts of talent, and like, it's great, dude. It's one of my favorite albums for sure.
There's a certain amount there's people that do what you do, Randy, and like they don't do it with the degree of originality and actual songcraft and an eye for the actual mood of a song. That's what strikes me about what is kind of similar between what you guys do, is like there's a lot of thought that goes into it, obviously. I really appreciate some depth and gravity and actual songwriting ability going on in what's being presented to me, is just as a fan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, whether it hits me over the head or it's something that kind of just envelops me or whatever, like I want to hear the songwriting and I want to hear the depth. That's what you've got in common, is there's a depth there.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. You know, like that's how I felt about, you know, Johnny's music, The Limbs, you know, like, it wasn't just this, like, this evolved take on, like, porch music. You know what I'm saying? Which I'm like, I love, dude. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I started, is like by being influenced by, you know, blues musicians stomping on porches and like and stuff like that. Like that's how I evolved, you know what I'm saying? But like his thing was like straight up right out the gate something completely and totally different, you know? And his live show is unlike any other one-man band that I've ever seen, you know? Like, he's special. Like, he's a gem, dude, to anybody who's ever seen Limbs play, like, would agree, I think. Yeah.
Well, and I know just firsthand in this scene, he has inspired a lot of people to do similar kind of things and explore kind of more what you can do as a one-person act, you know? Because there's people doing some incredible things now that are, I know for a fact, are directly influenced by what he has done.
For sure. And you know? he's so cool about it too, man, because along with the giraffes, dude, like being able to play with the Limbs was just like so special to me, you know, and he's so cool about it because there was no like element of competition. There was no like, you know, there was just none of that, like no ego whatsoever. It was like he was doing what he was doing, and I was doing what I was doing. And it was just like a good night. There was no weirdness about us both being one-man bands and stuff. Like, he's got such an awesome attitude, and like he's just one of the coolest fucking people I've ever met, you know? I've actually taken a couple guitar lessons from him. Dude, he offered that, you know what I mean? It's like a side gig or whatever to make money. And I was like, fuck yes, dude. I'm gonna like pay this guy like one of like my biggest influences to like just the opportunity to like sit down and play with him. I mean, that guy can play drums, piano, guitar. He is like, without question, one of the most talented musicians I've ever met, you know?
Yeah.
And, I wasn't gonna like pass up an opportunity just to like hang out and like smoke a cigarette and pick his brain, you know? And yeah. He's cool as shit, dude. I texted him today and told him I was going to talk about his album on the podcast.
That was one of the first, when I moved here, that was one of the first bands that Josh Finley said, you have to see the Limbs.
No way. No shit. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, and it's, good recommendation, Josh.
Yeah.
Cheers to Joshua Finley.
Yeah.
Of Joshua Finley art fame.
Yeah, dude.
You know what's really fucking funny is that I found a through line between that pick and my last pick, and I fucking forgot it. Why should I talk about this? There's no through line now. Forget it. Tossing this thing aside. I have to say we've done really well for having no prior knowledge of like, you know, what our picks are going to be, and I wanted it to be that way. I didn't want to know what you were going to pick, and you know, I think it works better that way, and it actually worked fucking amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah, dude.
My final pick, Man or Aster Man. Surf band from Alabama, you know, where all the great surf bands came from, right?
I'm gonna tell you, man, the Gulf Coast's got some surf, dude.
I know, dude. You would know better than I. You're actually a surfer. I don't surf at all. I just enjoy the soundtrack. Yeah, dude. What can I say honestly about Man or Aster Man that has not been said? The live aspect of what they do is pretty phenomenal. A lot goes into their presentation of their live material, to the point of dressing up their amplifiers to look like supercomputers. These guys are grade A fucking geeks. I mean, like, they are. That's why it's right up my alley. I love geeks. I love rock and roll. I love surf guitar, and the Ventures were my gateway drug into this shit. Okay, so
nice, dude.
This particular album that I'm talking about is called Deluxe Men in Space. When I first saw them, I was completely blown the fuck away. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, because I was a fan of surf music, but I didn't know it existed in the punk rock world or the underground rock world or whatever you want to call it.
More modern. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even know that people did that except for maybe Southern Culture on the Skids, you know, and they have their own brand of like, you know, shimmying little like, you know, trailer park rock that they do, and it's super fucking good. But like but just the straight up brutal intensity and the quickness and the kind of almost shredding mentality of surf goes into this band. Mostly instrumental. But this particular band, this is the first song I heard, was Maximum Radiation Level. It's the first song on here. And it is, to me, it kind of encapsulates what is everything that is great about surf rock and punk rock in general. It incorporates samples. Their live show incorporates samples. Like I was like, I would, at that point, it was like kind of the same point I got into like a lot of sampling and DJ stuff. A lot of sampling going on in the mid to late 90s, and that was really a part of this show. Is like they would play these B sci-fi movie like samples in between songs at their shows. They would typically bring out a fucking Tesla coil. These little lightning bolts of energy just fucking dissipate throughout the room, and you're just like, what the fuck's going on here? Are we gonna die? A fucking radar screen and projectors and like, what do I know about a Tesla coil? You know, I know a lot about the band Tesla, but that's for another time. This is amazing music. If you're into instrumental music, I highly recommend it. It's brutal.
I never took that plunge with that band, dude. I've heard of them, but I don't think I've ever heard a single song from them.
Dude, I took the plunge and it took me deep. That's it. That's my final pick. Well, fuck, dude, this was fucking fun. I mean,
it's so much fun, dude. God,
so,
I fucking can't thank you enough, dude. That was so fun to just like think about on the spot, like who I wanted to talk about at that time. You know what I mean? Like, 'cause I could have picked a fucking million different like.
Well, of course.
But like at that moment, I was like, this is what I'm feeling right now, dude. This is what I'm talking about. Like that. I love that.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like it's about having a really personal, you know, experience with the music. That's like, this is the context it was in, or this is the person that introduced me to it, or this is, you know, like those are all deeply personal experiences. You know, like those are all so relevant to who we are as players and performers and writers of songs and stuff. You know.
Yeah. On my last tour, dude, when I went through Wichita, I was hanging out with Brooke, you know, before the show. And, you know, we sat in his room and he did what you and I were basically doing, you know, like he had his laptop and he was like, here, dude, I've been checking these guys out. And I'd be like, oh, dude, here's what I've been listening to. And it was really cool, dude, to just like, you know, have that like common ground to ease that like social anxiety of, you know what I mean? Like we all want to talk about this shit. When you're a musician, your entire circle are musicians, and like who are the biggest snobs about music? Fucking musicians, dude. You know.
You just nailed it right there. That's it. You know what band I love is the fucking Melvins, and you know what, man? I saw them in '99, it fucking blew my mind, and fucking guy came out and played banjo. I was like, what? I mean, like all that, you know, like that stuff happens.
Right.
And you're like, I wish I wouldn't have said that.
You know, I'm not ashamed to say that, like, I think, you know, the fucking Chronic is like the greatest hip hop album of all time. Like, I'm not ashamed of that, but like, there is an element of like credibility where, hey, I want my pick to be respected, dude, on some level, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's important, dude, you know?
So I'm glad that you brought up credibility, because that's what it's all about.
That's right.
So important. Credibility, authenticity, What are we even doing here? Right? So I want to to kind of close this out, if you will. I want to talk about like why should anybody listen to us about any of this stuff? What reasons can I think of for you? Why should anybody listen to you? And I have these reasons. I've thought these through. So hear me out. Hear me out.
Okay.
This is why I think someone should listen to you about your taste in music. You have released, at least to my knowledge, 5 albums independently, and you have toured each of those albums extensively. This gives you probably all the credibility, but I have 2 more reasons. The second reason is you have a number of meaningful tattoos. Okay? It may be simple, but you can't overlook this fact. I think I've probably said this in other spots in here, but I find your music to be highly authentic and original.
Thanks.
And I've always felt that way. From the first time I saw you, you pretty much blew my fucking mind. I remember it clear as day. Creed, Colorado, Tommy Knocker Tavern. I'll never forget it because it was honestly a very defining like moment of my life meeting you. I would also add that you have a unique perspective in your experience as a wartime seaman. I mean that adds a heaping busload of solemn respectability, commitment, and integrity to your resume that I can't possibly. Who's not going to understand that, right?
That should get me in the door at any fucking fine dining establishment across the country, dude. Wartime seaman.
I chose my words poorly there because again I have been drinking mezcal, but the words did not imbue the proper respect. I apologize for that. That's not how I meant that to come out. But I you know what I mean.
I love it, dude. I'm seriously that's fantastic. Thank you.
Seriously, you were. I just want to go over this just for a second. You were working in a wartime scenario.
Yeah, during 9/11. I mean, I was on the USS Peleliu. We were on deployment when 9/11 happened.
Yes.
So we were already basically on our way, out that direction when that shit happened. We were in Darwin when it all went down,
You were in a place where you're directly confronting the situation in real time.
Yeah, we were, we were all having a good time in Darwin, Australia, thinking that life was just hunky dory, and that's when that happened. And like after that, we went straight to the coast of Pakistan, basically, and started operations and shit. So yeah.
So if that doesn't give you credibility, I don't know what does.
Well, I mean, does it give me rock credibility?
It gives you all kinds of credibility. What are you talking about? It gives you any kind of credibility you're looking for. Are you kidding me?
Well, thanks, dude. I mean, what was crazy about the Navy experience is how it like ties directly into what I do musically. Like I started writing songs on the ship. That was kind of when I started, entertaining the idea of actually being a musician. And I got out shortly after 9/11, and immediately started putting together a band and trying to make a music career and shit, Like I realized halfway through my enlistment that like being a musician is what I was supposed to be. And yeah, did my time, got out, and started playing rock and roll for real.
Yeah.
But all that time on the ship was really beneficial to me because, you know, on the ship, at least for me, I was working 12 hours a day and then I would have 12 hours off. So like on my free time or whatever, that's what I decided to do. You know, I brought a guitar on this ship and started playing music. And when I felt like there was a moment when I felt like, oh, this is something that I'm good at or I can relate to enough to be making the decision to get out of the military and pursue a career in music. You know, I was like, I came to that on the ship, you know.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah. It's
See,
cool
and
to-
that just proves my point. That adds credibility to the whole thing.
Well, thanks, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And that goes, that goes for you too, dude. I mean, the whole credibility factor to me, if anybody who's ever crossed paths with you, is just something that you can't argue. You have a label, you have a band, you have a solo career.
That's arguable.
And dude, from a personal standpoint, dude, you are a bona fide master in the art of shredding. And if anybody has ever seen you perform with your rock band Granny Tweed, like, they would know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, you are, in my opinion, dude, one of the fucking raddest frontman I've ever seen. You know, like,
Wow.
your guitar playing, your songwriting, and your melodic lyrical structure and content, dude, are fucking something that, like, I immediately gravitated towards, as a fan of, like, music. It's just, you got all the key elements, man. You know?
Dude, I appreciate that. I appreciate that,
dude.
man.
Well, one of my favorite moments, dude, is like going on tour with Granny Tweed and watching you fucking lay on the ground shredding a solo in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and just hitting every single note that is on the actual recording. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ, dude, what the hell? Like, dude, you inspire me to be a better guitar player.
Oh my God.
Like, plain and simple. Every time I see you play, man.
Well, now you've gone too far. Now you've gone too far.
I know. Hey, we're drinking.
All right. Well, you know what? I'll drink to all that.
Cheers, brother.
I'll drink to how credible we are in this moment right now. You know what I'll also drink to is how fucking horrible my light turned out to be right now as the sun went down. I can't even see myself at this point. I don't know what's going on. What can I say? I appreciate you being a part of this experiment. And
I appreciate you having me, dude. It was great to hang out and have some interaction, dude, with a fellow musician and a fucking solid brother, Thank you, dude. This was amazing. Thank you so much, dude.
Thank you, man. I appreciate the opportunity to connect with you, because we're all living in our own private Idaho right now. Like, we're just out here just in our own little cubicles,
It's really weird, dude. I keep telling people this, dude, that like I never would have imagined going through something like this, dude. This is some weird shit, dude. Like, we got to make the best of it, dude. And because it's the only card we're dealt, dude. It's the only hand that we got to look at is what's happening now, and make the best of it, dude. Hope to God that shit gets back to somewhat normal, but doesn't go completely back to normal, you know?
I think everybody's holding out a little hope that things are going to be different after this experience.
Man. Let's fucking learn from this shit and like become a better species, dude, you know? Like, cause we're not at the top of the food chain. We're being wiped out by some shit that's like smaller than anything we can see. And I can't stress enough to the people that I love, it's happening at the fucking most crucial point in our lives, man.
It is, you know? Man. It's actually almost eerie. The timing is fucking bizarre because like we're honestly not at the top of our game.
No, I would have agreed with that statement months ago, dude. You know,
we're just not handling this humanity thing very well, in my opinion.
We're not, dude. We're not. Especially in this country, and like I don't feel fucking bad about saying that.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
As they say, dude. Come get me if you disagree, dude. Like,
come at me, bro.
Yeah. Well, you got beef, dude? We ain't doing our best, man. You know?
Yeah.
But I appreciate you having me and passing the time, dude.
Man, it's been an honor. It's been an honor to hang out and fucking talk about rock and roll, dude.
Miss you, man.
I miss you, too. I will drink to that.
Cheers, brother.
We were going to be seeing each other very soon. This thing has fucked pretty much everything.
It really has, dude. I have so many songs I wanted to record with you.
Well, that can still happen. I can't wait to hear them.
It's great, dude. You know, I was telling Jay Ditchin, the other guitar player for Workhorse, I was telling him, I'm like, I've never felt the way I feel now about my music. You know, like I've always been chasing this like idea of what I wanted my thing to be, you know, and when I first started out, you know, I was like just trying to like navigate being a one-man band, so a lot of my stuff was very rootsy and shit. But now I've got kind of the instrumentation and the knowledge to execute what I want to do with what I am, you know? And the stuff that I'm doing now for the first time in 3 albums is really what I've wanted to do. And I'm stoked about it, dude. It's finally starting to kind of unfold, you know? And I feel like the next recording or 2 or 3 recordings, I will have like really mastered my approach to being a one-man band, you know?
I know that you've been just working on your sound almost since I met you. Like, I mean, that was a long time ago. Like, yeah. You've been working on trying to get your sound together, and you've done some incredible things. Like, you've made some crazy progress in that regard. Like, I remember like the last time I saw you, and it was down in Austin. I don't know. You just seem like you're at the height of your powers.
Well,
to put it in Marvel Universe terms.
Right on, man. You know, I always knew that it was going to be a long evolution, dude, you know? And every step of the way, there's like, oh, well, you just like kind of over time iron out these like things, you know, like I'm not happy with this aspect of what's happening. And then like you spend maybe a year trying to iron out how it works, you know, like, oh, guitar amp, like, well, that amp's too small or that amp's too big or whatever the fuck, or like,
right,
you know, like one of the biggest things for me personally is that I kind of ditched the making my own foot drums thing, you know, like I committed to playing real drums, and like that's opened up so many windows because the dynamic of how I can play with my feet is just better with fucking, you know, kick pedals and whatnot, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just like taking this like long route to get to where I want to be. And like, you know, now like for the last couple of years, I've been dealing with guitar tones and shit, you know, but I'm like figuring this out now, and like I feel like the batch of songs that I have now is this thing that I've always kind of wanted to do, you know.
It's like streamlined your songwriting along with your actual performance.
Yeah, because there's so many elements, man. You know, like when you're in a band, it's like, oh, dude, all you got to really do is like, this is the guitar tone I want. You know, and like that's not something that's like to be taken lightly. Guitar tone is huge, but like if you're just a guitar player in a band and that's all you got to figure out in order to fucking execute your songs, that's not a big deal. But when
Right.
you're doing a one-man band thing, it's like, well, I got guitar tone, and like, well, I have drums, and then like I have like this vocal approach, and like trying to execute all those things together. Like, how does that work? And all of this shit. Like it has all these like challenges that you don't foresee in the beginning, but if you're committed, you just kind of muscle through them as they come, you know?
Yeah. Well, those sounds can be hard to, you know, dial in. And listening to the mixes that like Matt has sent me of like the stuff that you're working on with him, like, you know, I've listened to that stuff and it's like, I don't know. I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. It's probably somewhere in the bottom of that mezcal bottle. I don't know. But the sound that you have right now that you've been working on is really paid off and dividends. You know, like, because that last album, like, you know, Bali Song it's such a deep record, man. I love it. And like, and hearing you do that stuff live, it's always different, but I've always been a fan of things that are a little bit different than what they are on record. You know, I know that there's probably a certain segment of the population of people that listen to music that don't really like that. They're like, oh, well, this doesn't sound like the record. I'm uncomfortable with that or whatever. But like, I've always been really super about like what you can do in the studio is what you can do in the studio. And what you can bring live is what you bring live, and it's okay for them to be different things.
Absolutely, dude. They're two
like,
totally different listening experiences, man. Anybody who would argue against that, dude, like that, I would just be like, what? No, like, like you can listen to a recording and like you're not in a live atmosphere. You're in your car, you're in your bathroom, you're in your living room. You know what I mean? There's like a whole different fucking set of emotions that go along being in that particular atmosphere. But when you're at a live show, there's energy from so many different people from the band and blah blah blah. Like it's a completely different thing. So for them to like exist differently, like to me is completely like kosher. Like,
yeah,
there's a recorded version and there's what you get when you go to a live show. Like, if you can't embrace that, then stay the fuck home and put your headphones on. That's cool too, you know, like.
Stay the fuck at home. It's kind of ironic now that we all have to stay at the fuck at home. But
wash your hands and listen to your records.
Wash your hands, wash your asses. No, but that's the thing though, is like, you know, like when I kind of feel like it took me a long time to figure out, like, well, if you're making a record, do you want to make a record that you're still that you want to make the best possible record that you can, and something that you can be proud of like years later when you're listening to it and be like, yeah, that's the best I could do, and I pulled out all the stops and I did everything I wanted to do to make it sound the best I could and have the best listening experience for whoever's listening to it. And then live is just it is a completely different beast. Like, you know, and I don't know, like there's a certain I almost am suspicious of acts that everything that comes off the exact same way it comes off on a record. I don't know. No, it's weird.
Dude.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes any sense or not, but
absolutely. I think suspicious is an excellent word because you can pull off a live performance that replicates the recorded version and have it come across genuinely and authentically. Absolutely. But you can try and do that shit and it can come off as like flat, stale, and fucking boring as shit. And I'm inclined to think that, like, if you purposely go that direction, that's what you're gonna get. But if you purposely go in the direction of, like, committing to a live, organic experience, regardless of genre, you're going to get a genuine, authentic, live musical experience. And that's artistic, dude. And that's what it should be about, in my opinion, which doesn't mean shit. But that's just fucking... Like,
hey, we've established your credibility, okay? We've established your credibility already. But yeah, I mean, that's the difference is, like, you're talking about a segment of the population that's going to be listening to a recording and just listening to it, like, maybe passively, I don't know, whatever, like, you know, like just listening to it at home in their environment or wherever, in their car or wherever. And then you have, when you translate that to a live experience, you have this whole other interaction. There's live people. There's people all around you. There's a community of people that are at that show. You know, they are part of that experience, you know.
Yeah, dude. This is a symbiotic relationship, like an exchange of energy that, like, is undeniable. If you've ever been to a rock show or you played a rock show or a musical performance, you know, regardless of what style it is, like, it's part of it, dude. But when you're in the studio, it's kind of this give and take thing, dude. Like, you don't have that, like, live element to it. So if you can get away with, like, using some studio tricks and shit to, like, make up for it, I think that's cool.
Explore the space, man.
Yeah. Why not? You know, not every time, dude. You can have a completely, like, raw version of a song where it's, like, just as gritty as it can be. But if the song calls for a little bit of production or whatnot that you can't pull off live all the time, that's fine. You know. Yeah,
that's specifically my personal hell that I deal with all the time.
Mine too, dude, to be honest with you, dude.
Every time I record a song, I'm like, yep. Like, there's maybe 2 songs on my new album that are like, oh yeah, like, I can just do that live, no problem. The other 8, it's like, nah, that's not gonna happen. None of that stuff is gonna happen.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with that. I don't know, because I like the creative process and I love doing what I do. So I don't really see the problem with it, you know.
Yeah, there isn't, dude. I mean, a recording is basically a snapshot of an idea, you know. Those ideas could be fucking spread out over X amount of time, but the final product is really nothing more than a snapshot of an emotion and a group of ideas. So if anybody expects your version of that artistic piece to be the same as this snapshot, they're fucking stupid, dude. You know, like.
But you know, what's funny about the way that the music business, like the big music business, I should say, the way that they really want people to go with that. They want people to go with, no, this is how it sounds on the album, and this should be how it sounds live. Like this song that you hear like this, it should sound exactly the same like that. Like there's this real push, especially, you know, like just obviously in pop music, for that to be the case. And obviously what we're doing is something completely fucking different.
Yeah, dude, definitely. You know, it's just a completely different world, man. You know, like I don't necessarily agree with all of that, but like that doesn't mean anything, you know. And like I think those kinds of that production value and stuff like that, those kind of recording techniques that are able to translate to a live show where those performers can essentially pay to have people fucking execute that kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? That's fine. I don't dive too much into that world musically. Like, there's really nothing wrong with it, but that's just not what I'm into.
Right.
I like a little bit of leeway for a live show. I want, you know, it was like the whole Super Bowl halftime experience. It was like nobody's singing or whatever. You know what I mean? It's all
Right.
in a show. Like, it's a completely different vein of entertainment. You know, like, people who appreciate that, more power to you. But, like, you know what? I'm not gonna, like, I'm not into it. Like, I love Janet Jackson, whatever, dude. Like, that's great. But I'm just like, I want something more organic, you know?
Breasts are organic.
I said Janet Jackson. What I meant to say was Jennifer Lopez. The halftime entertainment show and what I want out of a rock and roll performance are two completely fucking different things, and I'm totally, entirely okay with that. Where the fuck were we going with this, dude?
I don't know. That was my fault. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that. I think my entire point was you're fucking awesome.
You are too, brother.
Just bringing us back around, you know.
Bringing it back around.
Mutual Admiration Society. Because this is what we're doing now. This is how we're existing. We're drinking in our cubicles.
It's almost like we're on two different spaceships.
How's it going on Alpha Centauri, Randy?
Alpha Centauri is fine. We got a few more beers left. Hey! I'm hoping they supply us with more grass. I can't get high off my pills anymore.
Space grass. This is going to be a lot of fun to edit. It's all gravy. We all have plenty of time.
But this is great, dude. I mean, I think it's a great idea. Obviously, it was a great fucking way to pass the time and hang out with each other.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I think what you're doing right now, dude, is going to be great. Like, you know what I mean? To document what's happening right now.
I kind of thought about that aspect of it. It's just like it's kind of unprecedented, and none of us are necessarily going to have the time to do this. You know, whenever this whole thing ends. You know,
documenting history, dude.
Yeah.
Thanks for fucking having me as a guest. I'm fucking honored, man.
I'm
Gordo in the red lights.
Can you even see me? Like everything looks so dark.
I can see you. It looks cool, dude.
It was this crucial moment when I realized, like, oh yeah, all the light on me is natural light. Like there's no actual, like, I have no light coming. There's one light over here. That's it. Like I have nothing.
Really cool. It was awesome to see it go from like that natural Colorado light to like straight up red fucking cockpit. Looks like you're in a cockpit, dude. You know what it fucking reminds me of, dude, is being on the Navy. Were
you on the Navy?
In the Navy in the middle of the night, dude, because everything would go to like these red lights that like what it looks like right now.
Well, dude,
I love you.
Tell you what, I love you, man. I'm so glad we did this. I wish you and your family well during this apocalypse.
Hey, lots of love to you and the missus, brother.
Love you, man.
I love you, dude. Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely, dude. Thanks for being a part of it.
Chit chat, brother.
Thank you. 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 Thank you.